my pleasure to welcome you to this occasion. I'm Jim Wilburn, the Dean of the School of Public Policy at Pepperdine, and we're delighted to have not only our own students and some faculty from Pepperdine, from not only the School of Public Policy, but I see faculty from our other schools, Seaver College, and the School of Law, the Graduate School of Education and Psychology, and the School of Business and Management. We're delighted to have all of you here, and as well as some members of our Board of Visitors who are here. Each year, since the School of Public Policy began some 11 years ago, we have gathered once a year for the Licata lecture series. And this is a series made possible by the generosity of Charles and Rosemary Licata. And I'm delighted that Rosemary is here today, and would like to ask her to stand. Would you acknowledge our speaker today, Michael Novak, holds the George Frederick Jewett Chair in Religion and Public Policy at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. He was at our home for dinner last night, and I was recounting for him that it hit me yesterday that the first time that I invited Michael to speak at Pepperdine was 1978. So this is the 30th anniversary of our discovery of him at Pepperdine, and he's been here a number of times on various occasions to conferences as a speaker a couple of times to our Faith in Public Policy conference. And then Rosemary, when we find somebody that's really good, we're not hesitant to invite them back. This is his second appearance as the Licata lecturer. He's one of the most prolific and influential writers today, having authored over 25 books on a wide variety of subjects ranging from theology to American life, to immigration, to sports, to business vocation, the relationship between the government and free economic institutions. I think the last time that he spoke at the Licata lecture, he had just perhaps published his very fine book on the universal hunger for liberty. He's been the recipient of numerous awards, which are more than we have time to mention today, but his book, The Spirit of Democratic Capitalism, among all his others, has been translated into every major Western language, as well as into Bengali, Korean, Japanese, was published underground in Poland in 1984, and later in Czechoslovakia, in Germany, China, Hungary, described by one reviewer as one of those rare books that actually changed the world. And it seems to me that much in the spirit of the universal hunger for liberty or freedom? Liberty. Liberty. The universal hunger for liberty, much of the spirit of that book is his current book, the most recent book that he is from which he's going to share some thoughts today. And that is that the universal hunger for liberty was really a very compassionate outreach to others of the Abrahamic tradition, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian backgrounds, the things that we share in common. And his most recent book, No One Sees God, the dark night of the believer, of the atheist and the believer, is also an effort that I find, for one thing, it rises above the kind of the 8th grade level of debate of some of the angry atheists that have written lately, and reminds us that human reason is to be taken seriously, and at the same time, with authentic and civil compassion, he issues in this book an invitation to unbelievers to enter together into the dark night that all honest souls encounter at their extremities. I read the book maybe a couple of months ago, and I found it one where there is a sense of goodwill, moments of humor born of one who is very comfortable with his own faith. And in it, Novak invites to the warmth of his campfire conversation believers and unbelievers alike are isolated here on this tiny grain of sand among the dying galaxies that make up the reality of our universe in a common search for meaning. At this time, it's my privilege to introduce to you Michael Novak.
Well, thank you all very much for allowing me to come back to Pepperdine. I've never been here without having a really enjoyable exchange. I have found the students and faculty very quick with questions, from which I learn a great deal, and I hope we have good time for question period at the end. My record for a question period is 8 hours, not everybody has to say, but anyway, Lake Forest College in Illinois. I want to, and I have to tell you, Rosemary, I'm so delighted to be back for the Licata lecture. Had so much fun being with you and in your company. And your sister, I believe?
No, my sister Beatrice. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Good to see you, brother.
Thank you.
I shouldn't do this, but I want to do two things in this lecture. I want to say a few words about what I mean by the darkness, and by a particular road to belief in God in the 20th century, still lingering. Something relatively new, I think. But then I want to spend time on the main part of the lecture on what I call the end of the secularist age. I think we're at the end of an age, and about to see, or beginning to see the beginnings of a new one. The default position of the human race is and always has been knowledge of God's presence. The vast majority of human beings who have ever lived and who live today know they are surrounded by God. It's not even a big question for most. Atheism is a very new appearance in world history, and very small. In the United States today, for example, although we are perhaps the most religious country, which sounds odd to many people because the most modern countries are supposed to be the least religious, it just isn't true. Well, in Europe it is, but not here. 92% of Americans believe in God. And more interesting, of the small non-believing minority, over half of all the agnostics believe in God. And 1 in 5 atheists believe in God. Not in the sense of the Jewish God or the Christian God, but in that old pagan sense of God shared by Aristotle and Plato, Cicero and Seneca, the default position of human philosophy, until really very recently in human history. They believe in a penetrating intelligence through the world. I mean, everywhere you look, in a snowflake, in a blade of grass, in the galaxies, you find just such beautiful radiation of intelligence that makes you marvel. And they believe that whatever this intelligence is, it's a genius in mathematics. Practically everything can be reduced to exquisite mathematical formulae. And second, that there's obviously a tremendous energy and driving force, which they share, which we all share in the universe, of which we're not masters, but are moved by. So that may be why this default position, why virtually all the world today is in the grip of questions about God.